if your listeners are people who are investors,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be hearing a lot about Bitcoin at the moment. And certainly if they're not invested, they'll be considering it, thinking, should I get involved, blah, blah, blah. And if they do, they might stumble across the cryptocurrency industry and automatically think all of these cryptocurrencies are worth investing in, when I actually don't believe a single one of them is worth investing in, certainly over the long term, outside of Bitcoin. And we can get into why. Some of them, look, if you're a trader, you know how to trade and read charts, perhaps you might want to do it in the short term, but it's penny stocks. It's all nonsense. The only cryptocurrency I think that has any long-term value is Bitcoin, and it's the only one I'm interested in.
Well, why don't we just jump into it? Why only Bitcoin?
Well, let's talk about why Bitcoin is so important. What are the important things, like features of Bitcoin? Why has it been so successful? I think that's a starting point. So before Bitcoin, there was a group of people who've been trying to solve the idea of non-government controlled money, let's say. And there were a number of different attempts to do this. David Chaum did one called DigiCash, which was quite successful, but that failed because it was centralized. But there were lots of
what was his name? Who did DigiCash?
David Chaum, Chaum, and he created DigiCash, but it failed ultimately because it was centralized.
Okay.
The great thing about whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is, the people who created Bitcoin, is they fit the pieces of the jigsaw together to create a fully non-government controlled form of money. What you actually have with Bitcoin is something that's quite unique in that it's in its decentralization. So for anyone listening, what decentralization means is, in the context of Bitcoin, is anybody at all who holds Bitcoin or has an interest in Bitcoin can download what is called a node. And with that, they can download the blockchain, the entire Bitcoin blockchain. And on that blockchain, it has every transaction that's ever existed. And the reason that's important is if you've got a copy of the blockchain, and I have, and I send you some Bitcoin, your blockchain will validate that transaction. So you will know you've got that real Bitcoin from me. And the great thing about that is that these computers that are running the Bitcoin software all around the world mean it's decentralized. It means that governments can't switch it off. So for example, they can't destroy it. So that's a better way of saying it. So when China kind of banned Bitcoin, okay, people maybe stop running those nodes, but all across the world, these other nodes continue running. And that gives you a couple of really important features about Bitcoin. So the first one is that it's censorship resistant, which is really important, which means if I want to send you money, I send it to you and no one can stop me. If you want to sponsor WikiLeaks and you want to help them with their work, when Visa and MasterCard refuse to process their payments, you could do that. It also means it's seizure resistant. So in Greece, when the government took a haircut of bank savings of people, I think it was over $100,000, it was them or Cyprus, and people lost money because of the failure of government. You can't seize Bitcoin because you hold the private keys. First thing in the world, really, where you have true property rights, and it's protected by cryptography. So Bitcoin's really important because of that.
Quick question for you on the seizure resistant aspect, right? There's news articles that you'll see saying, the Fed sees, X amount of Bitcoin from, Silk Road or something like that. So would that be an example of a seizure? Or
when I say seizure resistant, if you own the private keys, nobody can take that from you. If you've got gold in your house, they can come in and take it.
Right. Got it.
But they have to have the private keys. The private keys cryptographically protect your Bitcoin. What happened with the Silk Road is they got access to the wallets, so they seized it. So there's been times when they've got access to wallets, and they've managed to seize the Bitcoin that exists within those and auction them off. But they have to get access to the wallets. This is what's really important about Bitcoin. Is nobody controls it. It's completely decentralized. It can't be switched off. It's got all these unique features. And that's really cool. And a lot of it works on this thing called the blockchain. That's a very important part of the technology. But what's happened is this industry's built up, this cryptocurrency industry, where people have tried to create other projects using blockchains and to sell them off as having certain types of features that might make it better than Bitcoin. And there's lots of different types. You can have altcoins. You can have something like Bitcoin Cash, which says you can have faster and cheaper payments. But economically, that's been proved to be a red herring. You have something like Ethereum that wants to be a world computer, but the problem with Ethereum, it has so much data being processed every day that needs to go on the blockchain, it has issues with scaling. So I think this is all nonsense. So I focus entirely on Bitcoin, which I personally believe over the next 10, 20, 30 years, whatever the time frame, it will become the most dominant form of money. and will, I mean, already is a global currency, but will be the primary global currency that people use. And that sounds hyperbolic, right? So you can ask me about it. When I first got into Bitcoin, I heard people say these things. I was like, yeah, come on. But I'm there now.